Have you ever wondered why some people seem incapable of remorse? Why can you hurt others and sleep soundly at night, while you might agonize over a careless word spoken weeks ago? Some people feel remorse deeply, others feel nothing at all. Carl Jung believed this difference reveals something profound about the relationship between conscience, soul, and God. And if you've ever struggled to understand why certain people in your life seem morally blind, this video might finally give you the answer you've been searching for. Before we dive in, if you're interested in exploring the depths of psychology, spirituality, and the human condition, hit that subscribe button and join the Empire of the Mind community. We're building something meaningful here, a space for those who refuse to live on the surface. 1. Guilt as psychological signal. Let's start with something counterintuitive. Jung did not see guilt as pathology. In a culture that often treats guilt as something to be therapized away, medicated, or dismissed as toxic, Jung saw it as something entirely different: feedback from the self. Think of guilt as your psyche's alarm system. It's not there to torture you. It's there to alert you when something is misaligned. Guilt appears when your actions violate your inner values, when your conscience is alive and functioning, when you still have a relationship to meaning. This is crucial to understand. Healthy guilt is not the same as neurotic shame. Shame says, "I am bad." Guilt says, "I did something that conflicts with who I truly am." One destroys the self, the other protects it. Jung believed that guilt is evidence of an active dialogue between the ego and the self, that deeper, more complete version of who you are. When you feel guilt, it means you're still connected to your moral center. You're still listening to that inner voice. The absence of guilt, then, is not freedom. It's not enlightenment. It's not emotional strength. It is a disconnection. It's a severing of the relationship between your conscious actions and your deeper values. And when that connection is lost, something profound dies within the psyche. 2. How moral blindness develops. So how does someone become morally blind? How does a human being lose the capacity for guilt? Jung believed moral blindness doesn't happen overnight. It forms through a process, usually beginning in childhood, when the psyche learns that truth is unsafe. Imagine a child who tells the truth and gets punished for it, who shows vulnerability and is ridiculed, who expresses genuine emotion and is told to shut it down. Over time, that child learns a devastating lesson. Honesty is dangerous, and feeling deeply will only bring pain. So, the psyche adapts. It numbs itself. It builds walls. Conscience, which requires sensitivity and self-reflection, becomes a liability. And slowly, layer by layer, the capacity for moral feeling gets buried. This is what Jung called psychic numbing. And here's what makes it so tragic. This numbing doesn't just block guilt, it blocks God awareness. It blocks access to the numinous, to the transcendent, to that sense of being part of something greater than yourself. Because here's the thing, guilt and God awareness come from the same place. They both require the ability to feel, to self-reflect, to sense when you're out of alignment with something deeper. When you shut down one, you shut down the other. Jung saw this pattern repeatedly in his clinical work. People who couldn't feel guilt also couldn't feel awe. They couldn't feel reverence. They couldn't feel that humbling sense of standing before something greater than themselves. Their inner world had gone dark. And this is why moral blindness is so dangerous. It's not just about bad behavior. It's about a fundamental disconnection from the soul itself. 3. Narcissism and the silent conscience. Now, let's talk about narcissism, because this is where Jung's insights become almost eerily relevant to our modern world. Narcissistic personalities often bypass inner dialogue entirely, while a healthy psyche asks, is this right? Is this aligned with my values? How will this affect others? The narcissistic psyche asks only, does this serve me? Does this make me look good? Can I get away with this? There's no conversation with conscience. There's only one strategy. Jung warned that when conscience is ignored long enough, it falls silent. Not because it's been integrated or transcended, but because it's been starved of attention. And a silenced conscience is one of the most dangerous things in the human psyche. Because here's what happens. Without the regulating force of conscience, the ego becomes inflated. It starts to believe its own narrative. It loses the ability to see itself objectively. Every action gets justified. Every hurt gets rationalized. Every manipulation gets reframed as strength. This is not power. This is spiritual amputation. Jung used the term psychopathy of the spirit to describe this condition. It's a state where the personality functions, where intelligence might even be high, but the soul has been evacuated. The person walks through life performing the role of a human being while missing the essence of what makes us truly human, the capacity for genuine connection, for moral struggle, for humility before something greater than ourselves. And the truly disturbing part? People in this state often appear successful. They might be charming, accomplished, even admired. But beneath the surface, there's a hollowness, a void where the self should be. 4. Why empaths feel moral weight? So what about those on the other end of the spectrum? What about people who feel guilt intensely, sometimes even excessively? Empaths experience conscience vividly. They often carry a burden of moral weight that others seem to shrug off effortlessly. They carry responsibility for harmony in relationships, a deep fear of wrongdoing, and an almost painful sensitivity to the suffering of others. If you're someone who lies awake at night replaying a conversation, wondering if you said something hurtful, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever felt guilty for setting a boundary because you worried about how it would affect someone else, you understand this weight. Jung believed this burden is not meant to be carried alone, but integrated with boundaries. Here's the key insight. If you feel guilt intensely, it means your conscience is not just alive, it's hyperactive. And while that might seem like a virtue, it can actually become a prison if not balanced with self-compassion and healthy boundaries. Because here's what often happens to empaths. They become so attuned to the moral dimension of life that they start carrying guilt that doesn't belong to them. They feel responsible for other people's emotions. They apologize for existing. They shrink themselves to avoid causing any discomfort whatsoever. This is conscience without boundaries. And it's just as imbalanced as narcissism, just in the opposite direction. Jung would say that the goal is not to eliminate your sensitivity, but to integrate it with self-respect, to honor your conscience without letting it tyrannize you, to feel deeply without losing yourself in the feelings of others. The empath's journey is about learning that you can be moral without being self-sacrificing. You can be compassionate without being self-erasing. You can care deeply about right and wrong without carrying the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. So where does this leave us? The ability to feel guilt is not a weakness. It's not something to be ashamed of or medicated away. It is evidence of an inner relationship to truth. It's proof that your conscience is still alive, that your soul still speaks, that you haven't severed the connection to something deeper than your ego's desires. Jung's insight cuts through so much of our modern confusion. Where conscience lives, the soul still speaks. And perhaps, in a world that increasingly rewards narcissism and punishes sensitivity, we need to hear this message more than ever. We need to understand that moral blindness is not strength, it's spiritual death, and that the capacity to feel guilt, when balanced with self-compassion, is actually one of the most profound indicators of psychological and spiritual health. So if you've ever felt guilty, if you've ever struggled with the moral weight of your choices, if you've ever lain awake wondering if you did the right thing, know this: that struggle is sacred. It means you're still connected. It means your soul hasn't gone silent. And if this exploration resonated with you, do me a favor, subscribe to Empire of the Mind. We're creating a community for people who want to understand themselves more deeply, who refuse to accept surface-level answers, and who believe that psychology and spirituality matter. Join us. There's so much more to explore. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and keep listening to that inner voice even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because that's where the truth lives.